Are you struggling with aging and feeling like your life is lacking meaning and value with the passage of your youth? Well, let's talk about it because I have a message that I think can help turn that around. So, I recently saw the movie The Substance. It's a visually stunning, body dysmorphic horror movie with plenty of gore. But honestly, it's so much more than that. And I'm not going to do a movie review necessarily, but rather I want to talk about the deeper meaning behind the movie, which is finding a balance between our younger selves and our older selves as we age, and ultimately accepting ourselves at every age. Hi, I'm Kimberly, and this is Faith and Feathers. So, the premise of the movie is that Demi Moore's character, Elizabeth, is turning 50 and she's being let go from her 30-year career as a TV exercise queen to be replaced by somebody younger and hotter, as the top executive guy puts it. So she's devastated by this because her entire self-worth had been found in her beauty, her youth, and her TV career. So she's being thoughtlessly tossed to the curb and replaced by the next youthful beauty. And it was just something that she couldn't accept. To her, she was losing her whole identity. I mean, she had nothing else. She had no family, no real friends, no hobbies. She had no faith. And she realized that no one really loved her after all. They only really loved what her youth and beauty and lucrative career brought to the table for them. So a youth serum called the Substance is presented to her as a way to stay young and beautiful, and she goes for it. The catch is the Substance would create a new, younger second self that would in every way be Elizabeth, but a clone. So the young clone, Sue, would be able to live life out in the world for 7 days while Elizabeth would be in a state of some sort of coma on a feeding solution at home. And then after 7 days, Sue would have to come back, perform like a blood transfusion switch. And then the older Elizabeth would go live her life out in the world for 7 days while Sue laid there on that feeding solution. Kind of weird, I know. But it was explained to Elizabeth that if they, both Elizabeth and Sue, respected the balance of each other and did the switch without fail, everything would be great. It was told to them repeatedly through the movie that they were one. They actually were not separate people, but they were one. So the message here is that for every one of us, there's a younger version, and ultimately, God willing, an older version of ourselves as we age, and not respecting the balance of that aging process and accepting it, but instead going to battle with that leads to the ultimate hell that plays out in the movie. You know, at 59, I still want to look my best. And one of the most interesting things about aging as it pertains to looks that I have found is looking in the mirror and not seeing reflected back at myself an image that matches the age that I feel inside. I feel about 35 years old, but the jowls, the loose skin and wrinkles that I see reflected back to myself, they don't look 35. And it's that feeling that sends many women to the surgeon for a facelift or other procedures. Hey, I understand that conflict, and I have no judgment on anyone's choice to do so. In fact, if I had the money and didn't fear surgery, I probably might do it too. But using surgery or products in a quest to be a better version of ourselves is not necessarily the problem. I think the problem is when we tie our value and self-worth and our ability to feel joy to any external part of ourselves. In other words, if our confidence and general happiness is dependent on our youth or beauty or career or anything else external, we'll be in a world of hurt as we age. Because every day we're getting older, and every day things eventually change and eventually end. And many of us struggle when those life chapters end, don't we? When our kids are raised and we are no longer full-time moms, who are we? When our looks fade and we begin to feel irrelevant and invisible in public, or when we retire or are let go from our career, who are we without that title? We may have faced a divorce or a breakup, and our identity is no longer a wife or a partner. It's times like that that we might wonder, well, what meaning does my life have now? Do I still matter? For Elizabeth, her life's meaning was her youth and beauty and the adoration of others. She didn't know how or didn't want to accept aging with grace and dignity. She wasn't excited about the prospect of reinventing herself. She didn't know that true value and joy in her life shouldn't really be based on what was external in the first place. I think we all know that deep down, and it sounds really trite, but I think it bears a reminder, especially to those of us in midlife, and we are really facing life changes. Having been blessed to even be 59, I've gone through my share of hard things. I have felt the loss of marriages, death of loved ones. I have felt the chapters of being a full-time mom end as my son grew up. And I've had wildly different careers, from cosmetology to electrical automotive work. I've struggled at times adapting to the passage of time and the changing roles in my personal and work life. But what I learned over time, and didn't always feel in my youth, is that my true value, my identity, and the meaning in my life, it's innate. It's God-given. It's who I am and not what I do. No matter what chapter of life we're in, our value goes with it. And if we always continue to seek things that bring us joy and use our gifts and talents to bless and serve others, then no matter what we go through, we bring value and meaning to life because of who we already are. At every stage of life, we need to be curious and adventurous, always seeking new knowledge with the wonder of a child. I'll give you an example of how different my life and interests are now compared to when I was young. I grew up in a quaint suburb with houses built close together, with a small backyard surrounded by a busy city. The thought of living in a country environment and having chickens was never on my radar. I was a hairdresser right out of high school, and my dream in my early 20s was to move to New York City, work in a high-end, prestigious salon, make lots of money, and enjoy the excitement of the nightlife in the Big Apple. I never did do that. But as I grew older, went through some of my own life chapters, I matured, my interests changed. I had new roles in my life. It wasn't until I was in my mid-40s that I moved to a rural home with several acres and got chickens. My son was a young teenager at the time, and it was his suggestion. Well, I knew nothing about chickens. I didn't know how to take care of them. I didn't know what to feed them. But from his suggestion, I opened my mind to learn. And surprisingly, I absolutely fell in love with them. And I've had them ever since. My life now is simple, rustic, a little bit homesteady, And it's so very different from the life in my youth that I thought I would have or even want. Now the thought of a big city makes me cringe. And it's nothing against big cities. They're great to visit. It's just that with time, age, my interests have changed. And I've allowed that evolution and I've welcomed it with eagerness. Elizabeth fought that change and she was like bitter about it because to her, change meant an end and a loss. And where I might not always like how fast time seems to be going by, I feel blessed to still be here at all and optimistic about what life has to offer at every age. And the reason is because I bring value and meaning to each new chapter from the inside out, from where God resides and has given me that value and purpose first. And truly, often the best life chapters come with age when we are a little more seasoned and we have a little life behind us. I mean, let's be honest. Being younger may have been fun, but we didn't know anything. As we age, we develop wisdom, strength of character because of the hard things we've been through. And those lessons have real meaning and value to ourselves and others. Remember, we are all children of God. We are made in His image, and there is no greater meaning than that. So, what will your next chapter be? I hope I've inspired you to look forward to it with excitement and optimism. If you are in midlife, retired, or close to it, think of ways that you can reinvent yourself. What are you going to do? Are you going to learn a new language or volunteer, start a new hobby, or maybe even write a book? Just promise me you'll look forward to it with the wonder of a child. Listen, say hello in the comments. Let me know your thoughts on this message. And until next time, God bless and have a great day.